Scaling a startup is one of the most exciting yet challenging stages of growth. While the opportunity to expand and increase revenue is appealing, scaling introduces a range of operational, financial, and organizational challenges that must be navigated carefully. One of the main challenges startups face when scaling is maintaining product quality and consistency while expanding. As the customer base grows, it can be difficult to deliver the same level of service, support, and product quality that customers initially experienced. It requires startup to invest in automation, process optimization, and team expansion to handle the increased demand without sacrificing quality. Another common challenge is managing cash flow during the scaling process. While revenue is increasing, scaling often involves substantial upfront costs in areas such as marketing, hiring, and technology. If the startup does not manage cash flow effectively, it may face liquidity issues that hinder further growth. Financial planning and forecasting becomes essential, as well as exploring options for external funding if necessary. Talent acquisition and team management also become more critical when scaling. As the company grows, the team needs to scale along with it. Ensuring that the startup can attract and retain skilled employees while maintaining company culture and aligning new hires with the mission and vision is key to long term success. To overcome these scaling challenges, startups must plan and execute strategically. This involves building systems and processes that can handle increased complexity, investing in scalable technologies, and being mindful of financial and operational constraints. A clear growth strategy, along with continuous monitoring and adaptation, helps startups scale successfully. As your user base grows, delivering a consistent product and experience becomes exponentially harder. The systems and processes that worked for 100 customers may start break under the weight of 1,000 or 10,000. There are some common challenges like feature bloat from trying to serve too many customer types, bugs and outages due to increased usage or under optimized infrastructure, and slower response times and customer support. So, to help with that, you can invest in automation and infrastructure from CI/CD pipelines to customer support chatbots. Automation helps maintain quality without requiring constant manual input. You can prioritize product ops and QA, embed quality assurance and performance monitoring into the development process, not just post launch. Use customer feedback loops to create structured ways to gather insights from users at scale. So, this is again surveys, analytics, and support tickets, and prioritize improvements accordingly. And growth is expensive. Whether you're hiring aggressively, launching paid campaigns, or expanding into new markets, scaling requires capital. Ironically, many startups experience cash shortages just as they're gaining traction. Some common challenges include revenue lagging behind expenses, rising customer acquisition costs as you enter less efficient growth channels, and poor forecasting or overhiring. Some solutions could be to build detailed financial models, forecast expenses, revenues, and runway across best case and worst case scenarios. Optimize your CAC and LTV, so know your unit economics inside and out, how much you're spending to acquire a customer and how much that customer is worth to you over time. Secure funding strategically, whether it's equity, venture debt, grants, tax credits, or revenue based financing. Align your capital needs with your growth timeline. Delay unnecessary spending. Focus only on high return investments and defer nice to haves until you have more breathing room. A growing startup needs a growing team, but hiring fast doesn't mean hiring well. Misalignment, poor onboarding, or diluted culture can erode momentum. Some common challenges include hiring for speed instead of fit, leadership bandwidth is stretched too thin, and cultural drift as new people come in. And potential solutions could be to document and share your company culture and values. Make sure hiring and onboarding processes reinforce what matter most to your team. Build scalable HR and management systems. Don't rely on ad hoc hiring. Develop structured interview processes, onboarding plans, and performance frameworks. Invest in leadership and middle management. Founders can't manage everyone and every detail forever. Identify and empower strong managers who can lead teams independently. Startups often succeed early on because they're scrappy and flexible, but the same qualities can become liabilities when you're trying to scale. Some common challenges include over-reliance on manual processes, lack of documentation and knowledge transfer, and ad hoc decision making without clear accountability. Some potential solutions could be to standardize repeatable processes, whether this is onboarding customers to deploying updates, build SOPs that anyone on the team can follow. Adopt the right tools. So maybe it's a CRM system, project management tools, or internal dashboards because they can streamline operations and improve visibility. Introduce cross-functional communication rhythms. This could be weekly team meetings, daily scrum meetings, monthly OKRs, or regular check ins to help teams stay aligned as complexity grows. Ironically, the very act of scaling can slow you down. More people, more customers, more work to do, more infrastructure, and all of it can make a startup less nimble. Some common challenges include slower decision making due to bureaucracy, resistance to change from newer team members, inability to pivot and experiment as freely. Some potential solutions could be embrace a startup within a startup model, create small cross functional teams that own specific outcomes and can move quickly, protect time for innovation, don't let operations take over entirely, dedicate cycles for experimentation and R&D, focus on strong internal communication. Clear goals, documented decisions, and transparent reporting help everyone move faster and with more confidence. Finally, one of the most underappreciated challenges of scaling is staying focused on what matters. As new opportunities pop up, it's easy to spread yourself too thin. Some common challenges include chasing shiny objects that distract you from your core business, misalignment between founders, exec, and new hires and frontline teams, and lack of clarity on goals, metrics, or strategy. Some possible solutions could be to define and share a clear growth strategy. Make sure everyone on the team understands your priorities, your target market, and your roadmap. Use OKRs or KPIs to drive alignment. Track progress using consistent outcome focused metrics. Regularly assess and adapt. What worked last quarter may not work this quarter. Build review cycles into your strategy to stay agile. Scaling isn't just about growing bigger, it's about growing better. With careful planning, strategic hiring, and financial discipline, relentless focus to deliver value at scale so startups can navigate the complexities of growth without losing what made them special in the first place. Well, let's talk about money. There are some fundraising and strategies and investor relation topics that we can dive into. For many startups, scaling requires external funding to fuel growth. Understanding fundraising strategies and effectively managing investor relations is crucial for securing the necessary capital and building long term support. There are several avenues for fundraising, including bootstrapping, angel investors, venture capital, and crowdfunding. Each funding source has its advantages and challenges, so startups must carefully consider their stage, needs, and goals. Early stage startups may rely on angel investors or crowdfunding to raise seed capital, while more established startups may turn to venture capital firms for larger funding rounds and to accelerate growth. Investor relations go just beyond funds. It's about building trust, relationships, mentorship opportunities, and maintaining a strong, transparent relationship is crucial. Regular updates, clear communication, and shared vision for the company's future are essential for fostering positive relationships with investors. Keeping investors informed about progress, challenges, and key decisions helps to maintain confidence and support. Effective investor relations can also provide valuable advice, introductions, and networking opportunities that contribute to the startup's growth. Strong fundraising strategy coupled with effective investor relations ensures that startup can access the capital they need to scale, while also building long-term mutually beneficial partnerships with investors. Securing capital is one of the most critical and often daunting aspects of building and scaling a startup. While a great product and a strong traction are important, a well-crafted fundraising strategy and strong investor relationships can make the difference between stalled growth and a thriving, well-funded company. Beyond the money, the right investors can offer strategic guidance, open doors, and provide credibility in the market. So fundraising is not a one-size-fits-all process. Your choice of funding should align with your stage of growth, business model, and long-term vision. Each path has its own pros and cons and implications for ownership and control. The bootstrap, it's money out of your pocket, whether it's personal savings or your own salary or income, and it's idea for early days. So it's validation phase, lean experimentation, MVP, pilot projects. And if you think you can achieve profitability quickly, it might work for you. You have full control and there's no equity dilution if you choose this path. The cons are it's probably a limited amount of runway and growth speed, and you have to keep putting money in the pot, as they say. Another option is going to friends and family. So this is an informal early stage funding from your own personal network. It gives you quick access to capital and it's trust based. The cons is that it's a risk to your personal relationships and it's somewhat less structured. Another option is using angel investors. So these are high net worth individuals who invest early in exchange for equity. They often invest before or at the seed stage and may provide mentorship. The pros are that you have flexible terms and you get strategic guidance. The cons are smaller investment sizes and it can vary in experience. For venture capital, this is institutional type funding, and it's usually at Series A or later. Venture capital brings a lot of money, network access, and growth experience. You get larger checks, you get a lot of strategic input and mentorship, but you're also diluting down your equity, and the expectations are higher for hypergrowth and potential loss of control of your company. You could also try crowdfunding. So this is like, your Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or Seed Invest. They allow you to raise funds from a large group of backers. You get market validation, you build a community early on, but it's an intense marketing effort and it may not lead to long-term investors. And it also kind of puts your idea in a market that makes it potentially stealable. So I've seen that happen a lot. There's also grants and government funding, which I think are very underrated. There's non-dilutive capital funding for specific initiatives, tax credits, especially in health, tech care, and clean energy sectors. You don't lose equity, you improve your credibility, but it's very competitive and the application process are very time consuming. So fundraising is about a good match. Don't just look for money, look for alignment, and you can use a combination of these approaches. To raise capital effectively, startups need more than a compelling pitch. They need a strategy that communicates vision, traction, and upside while being grounded in data and credibility. Key elements of a successful strategy include clear understanding of capital needs. So, know exactly how much you need, what it's for, and how long it will last. This is your runway. Define fundraising milestones. So, if you're raising with a specific outcome in mind, like reach X number of users or product market fit or expand into new markets. Target your investors. So research and build a list of investors who invest in your stage, sector, and geography. Create a compelling pitch and data room. So build a professional pitch deck, financial model, and data room with due diligence materials ready. And then go in with a relationship first mindset. So start building relationships with potential investors months before you need the money. Investors back people as much as they back ideas. Your ability to inspire confidence, articulate vision, and build trust is often more important than the idea itself. Next up is raising capital, being the beginning of a relationship, and it's not transactional. Think of investors as stakeholders in your journey and maintain open, honest, and proactive communication with them. And what's important for maintaining and developing these relationships? Regular updates. So that could be monthly or quarterly investor updates and highlight metrics, challenges, opportunities, and asks. And it's not just about money, it's referrals, it's hiring, it's ideas, it's product feedback. Be honest and transparent about challenges and setbacks. Investors prefer reality over spin, and be responsive. So if questions and requests come in, respond promptly and professionally and involve them strategically. They could be on an advisory board, they could be on your executive board. They can help you for introductions, like I said, hiring new markets, better product market fit, and bring them along for the ride. Acknowledge their success or their support in your success as a company. Strong investor relationships pay dividends beyond capital. Good investors can help you raise your next round, recruit talent, and navigate critical decisions. So there's some common pitfalls that you want to avoid. So waiting too long to raise money. You have to have momentum and several months of runway before you don't want to be waiting until the last minute and run out of money. And it takes a lot of time to kind of get in with investors and get that check over. And don't over optimize the high valuation. Focus on finding the right partners and build a sustainable business. Don't overpromise. Don't make promises you can't deliver on. Investors respect integrity over hype. Don't neglect investor relationships post close. So many founders go silent after raising some money, which undermines trust. And if you think about your growth journey as a company, these investors are going to come back a few times probably and invest a few times. So you really want to maintain that relationship ongoing. And think of them like a partner. You're not pitching to them. Founders who treat investors like collaborators, not just check writers, build stronger, more resilient companies. They have better strategic alignment. They have better transparent communication. They have a stronger long-term vision. So you set the foundation for what a meaningful investor relationship looks like. And some suggested homework if you've been following along. So identify your key growth levers and metrics for your core business. Develop a go to market strategy. Develop strategies for customer acquisition and retention. Map out a plan to scale with realistic timelines. And come up with a plan B or a plan C if things kind of don't go as planned. And then identify your fundraising strategies and investor relationship plan. Diving into financial strategy, financial models, and budgeting in this section. So, one of the most critical components of a startup's financial strategy is creating a comprehensive financial model and budget. This was personally one of my favorite things. A financial model is essentially a tool that outlines the financial performance of a business over time based on various assumptions about revenue, costs, and growth rates. For startups, a solid financial model provides clarity on the startup's financial health and projections, allowing funders to make informed decisions about how to allocate resources and plan for the future. The first step in developing a financial model is identifying key variables such as sales, expenses, capital expenditures, and funding needs. Startups should also include assumptions about customer acquisition, growth rates, pricing models, and any other relevant factors that could impact revenue and costs. The model should project income, cash flow, and balance sheet performance over a certain period of time, usually 3 to 5 years, and be updated regularly to reflect changes in market conditions and business performance. Budget is a more detailed short-term vision of a financial model, so it helps you start to track day-to-day operational costs and make sure that you're staying within your means while pursuing growth. A well-constructed budget defines financial goals into specific categories such as marketing, salaries, operating expenses, and R&D, and ensures that resources are allocated to the most critical areas. By monitoring actual expenses against budgeted figures, startups can identify potential financial challenges early on and make necessary adjustments. No matter how innovative your product is or how fast your user base is growing, your startup won't survive without a solid understanding of its financials. This is where financial modeling and budgeting should come in. Together, they form the foundation of your startup's financial strategy, guiding decision making, helping to secure funding, and enabling you to manage cash flow with confidence. A good financial model tells the story of where your business is going. A well maintained budget keeps you grounded in the present. A financial model is a forward looking tool that simulates how your startup will perform financially under various assumptions. It translates your business strategy into numbers, projecting revenue, costs, profits, cash flow, and your funding needs over time. Your financial model acts as a living blueprint for your business. So it helps you understand your unit economics. So that's your customer acquisition costs, lifetime value, and gross margin. It forecasts runway and determine when you'll need more capital. And it helps you set performance targets for sales, marketing, and operations. It also helps support your conversations with investors. So you have to have a credible financial projection to help them write that check. While models vary depending on the type of business, so SaaS, marketplace, D2C, etc., most early stage startups can include these components. So first is a revenue model. Break down how your startup makes money. Depending on your business, that could be subscription revenue, one-time purchases, usage-based billing, or licensing or service fees. Model revenue drivers such as number of customers, your average revenue per customer, your churn or retention rate, and your growth rate, which could be monthly, quarterly, or annually. Next, you want to look at cost of goods sold, or COGS. These are the direct costs tied to delivering your product or service. So that could be manufacturing, hosting, fulfillment. Subtract COGS from your revenue, and that gives you gross profit, which is a key indicator of scalability. Next is operating expenses, or OPEX. This includes everything it takes to run your business. So salaries, contractors, keeping the lights on, marketing, sales spend, R&D, product development, rent, legal advice, and other software tools. CapEx, or capital expenditures, are the really big investments on equipment or software development. So they might not show up on your P&L statement immediately. They do affect your cash flow and balance sheet. And you also want cash flow projections. So track how much money is coming in versus going out each month. This is critical for managing runway and timing your next fundraising. Then you want balance sheet and income statement. Create simplified versions of these core financial statements to reflect projected performance over time. Also do scenario planning. Include multiple versions of your model. So maybe you have a best case scenario, which is aggressive growth with ideal conditions, and maybe you have base case. So this is more realistic. It's forecast based on current trends. And you've also got worst case. This is slower growth, higher churn, delayed revenue. You get surprised by tariffs or new regulation comes in and it kind of sets you back a little bit, but it's good for consideration. While your financial model is strategic and long term, your budget is operational and short term, usually one fiscal year. It breaks down forecasted expenses and revenue into detailed line items to help you manage daily and monthly decision making. Your startup needs a budget. Keep spending aligned with strategic goals. It helps you prioritize investments such as hiring and marketing spend. It helps increase financial discipline and accountability, and it helps you identify early warning signs such as overspending or underperformance. Some tips to create your budget. So categorize expenses into like logical buckets. Like here's marketing, here's payroll, here's product, here's overhead. Use rolling forecasts. So instead of a one static budget per year, update your forecast quarterly based on actual performance and compare budget versus actual spend so you can get better predicting what you plan to spend. And then involve your teams. So department heads should own their own budgets and be accountable for staying within their limits. And budgets aren't about control, they're about alignment and intention. They help your team spend with purpose. And you've also got to justify some of these costs to people who are investing in your company. Next, you want to use your financial model and budget to make decisions. The real power of financial modeling and budgeting lies in how you use them. If you're raising money, use your model to show how the funding will extend runway, drive growth, and improve profitability. If you're hiring, check whether your budget supports the headcount increase without jeopardizing cash flow. If you're doing some marketing campaigns, forecast expected revenue based on return on investment and customer acquisition cost to decide if it's worth it. And if you're considering a pivot, use the model to simulate how change affects unit economics, runway, or break-even point. And you don't need fancy tools to do financial modeling or budgets. You can use Google Sheets, Excel. You could use Bricks, Forecast, or Finmark. QuickBooks is very popular with some smaller companies. And there's also tons of free templates out there. So financial models and budgets, they're not just for CFOs or accountants. They're essential tools for every founder. They give you clarity, credibility, and control. By investing time in developing a financial model and budget that reflects your business reality and ambitions, you'll be better equipped to make strategic decisions and communicate with investors and grow with confidence. Financial metrics, key performance indicators, and OKRs are essential tools for tracking the financial health of a startup and making data-driven decisions. These metrics provide insight into the company's performance, helping founders, investors, and stakeholders assess the startup's growth potential and sustainability. Some of the most important financial metrics for startups include revenue growth, gross margin, burn rate, runway, and CAC. Revenue growth measures the increase in sales over time. High revenue growth is a good indicator of market acceptance and business success. Gross margin is the difference between revenue and cost of goods sold. So a higher gross margin indicates that the company is a little bit healthy and profitable from its core activities. Burn rate is the rate at which a startup is spending its capital before becoming profitable. So monitoring burn rate is crucial for managing cash flow and understanding how long the startup can operate before needing additional funding. Runway is the amount of time a startup can operate before running out of cash based on the current burn rate. It helps founders understand how urgently they need to raise more capital or become profitable. And the total cost to acquire a new customer is including marketing and sales expenses, and it should be compared with the lifetime value of a customer to ensure that the startup is acquiring customers profitably. Tracking these metrics allows startups to measure progress against business goals and identify areas for improvement. Consistent monitoring of financial KPIs is also crucial for investors, as it shows the financial trajectory of a business and informs funding decisions. Since startups operate in a fast-paced, high-risk environments where decisions often need to be made quickly and with limited data, that's why understanding and tracking the right financial metrics and using them to guide decision-making is essential. So all these startup metrics combined would be a great dashboard and help founders and investors and team members assess the health, growth, and operational efficiency in real time. Rather than chasing vanity metrics like social media followers, likes on an app, or downloads, smart startups focus on actionable financial metrics that align with growth goals, customer value, and sustainability. There are several essential financial metrics that startups should monitor regularly to stay on course and make informed strategic decisions. So, revenue growth is the percentage increase in revenue over a given time period. So, that could be monthly, quarterly, or annually. And why does it matter? It demonstrates traction, product market fit, and market demand. High growth is often a signal to investors that the business is scaling successfully. And how do you calculate it? So you take your current period revenue and subtract previous period revenue and divide that by previous period revenue times 100. I'll put some screenshots and links to help visualize these. Also, you can check out our free resources on the website BrainSparks.ca. Separate revenue by product lines, customer segments, or channels to further identify growth drivers. Gross margin is the percentage of revenue left after covering direct costs before operating expenses. So this reflects how efficiently the business is turning revenue into profit. High gross margin gives the company more room for reinvestment and growth. So to calculate that, you take revenue minus cost of goods sold divided by revenue times 100. So SaaS and software startups often aim for 70 to 90% gross margins, while product-based companies might have 30 to 50% margins. Burn rate is the amount of cash your startup spends each month. And this is important because it helps you assess how fast you're using capital and whether your spending is sustainable. So gross burn is total cash spent monthly, while net burn is cash outflows minus any incoming revenue. Track your burn rate closely, especially if you're pre-revenue or fundraising. Unexpected increases can signal overspending or operational inefficiencies. Runway is the number of months your startup can keep operating at the current burn rate before running out of cash. This indicates how much time you have to hit your next milestones or when you need to start raising funds again. So to calculate this, you take cash on hand divided by the monthly net burn. It's good to aim for 12 to 18 months of runway after each funding round. CAC, or customer acquisition cost, is how much it costs to acquire a new customer, which could include marketing, sales, and onboarding. And this shows how efficient your go-to market efforts are. High customer acquisition costs without a strong retention or customer lifetime value is a red flag. To calculate it, you take total sales and marketing costs divided by the net new number of customers acquired. And as you scale, your customer acquisition costs should decrease due to the increased brand awareness and improved conversion rates. LTV is the total revenue you expect to earn from a customer over the course of the relationship with your company. Why this matters, it helps you understand how you're acquiring and valuing and retaining your customers. It's a very complicated formula here, so bear with me. So it's average revenue per user times gross margin divided by churn rate, or you could look at average order value times purchase frequency times the customer lifespan, or average monthly revenue per user times average customer lifetime in months. So your LTV should be at least 3 times your CAC to ensure long-term profitability. So if you have, let's say, a health and fitness app, and it costs you $5 to get a user to pay for and sign up for your app, but they only stick around 1 month, and your net profit only gives you $3 per month, you're losing money and you have a higher customer churn rate. Look at your LTV to CAC ratio. So this is a single metric that compares the cost to acquire a customer to the value they bring over time. And this is a measure of efficiency. You want it to be 3 to 1 or higher. So using that fitness app example, if it costs you $3 or if it costs you $5 and you make $3 a month, you need to extend them out so they stay at least 2 to 3 months on your subscription to make sure that you're at least making a profit off of them. Anything less than that is unsustainable and you're just burning money too quick on customer acquisition. So next is monthly recurring revenue or annually recurring revenue. Predictable recurring revenue is really important. It is an indicator of growth trends, churn rate, and upsell success, and it's key for SaaS and subscription-based businesses to provide visibility into growth and future cash flow. And we've talked a little bit already about churn rate. So this is the percentage of customers or revenue lost within a given time period. High churn erodes growth and signals poor customer experience or product market fit. To calculate this, you take recurring revenue lost during a period divided by total recurring revenue at the start of the period times 100. Lower churn means high retention and more stable revenue. Operating margin. So what is it? The percentage of revenue left after all operating expenses, but before taxes and interest. This shows how efficiently the business is being managed. Higher margin means you're more profitable. To calculate this, you take your operating income and divide it by revenue. Metrics are only useful if they're accurate, actionable, and accessible. Building your data infrastructure early so you can measure what matters and tracking KPIs that tie directly to your business goals will help you do this. Also, create a financial dashboard. So it could be something simple in Excel or Google Spreadsheets, and make sure that your leadership team is reviewing it regularly. Set monthly and quarterly targets for your top KPIs, track trends over time, and don't just think about the absolute numbers. So for investors, the metrics tell a story. They often ask for uh, these to assess your performance and potential. Being prepared to speak confidently about your KPIs, what's working, what's not, and why is a sign of a mature and data-driven founder. Understanding your key financial metrics isn't just about managing money, it's about managing momentum. When you know your numbers, you can steer your startup with intention, communicate clearly with investors, and make smarter decisions that accelerate your growth. Metrics help you see the truth of your business and give you the power to change the story. Managing cash flow and runway is a critical task for startup founders, especially in the early stages when revenue may be limited and expenses can fluctuate. Effective cash flow management ensures that the startup has enough liquidity to cover operational costs and invest in growth opportunities without running out of cash. The key to managing cash flow is understanding the timing of inflows and outflows. Startups should keep track of accounts receivable, which is money owed by customers, accounts payable, the money that the startup owes, and any outstanding debts. By forecasting when cash will come in and when bills will need to be paid, startups can anticipate cash shortages and take proactive measures, such as negotiating payment terms with suppliers or securing short term financing. A closely related concept is runway, which refers to the amount of time a startup can operate before running out of cash at the current burn rate. Startups should regularly calculate their runway to understand how much time they have to achieve profitability or secure additional funding. If runway is running short, founders need to take action by reducing expenses, increasing revenue, or seeking additional investment. For startups that are still in the early stages, managing runway effectively can make the difference between survival and failure. Cash is the lifeblood of any startup. No matter how innovative your product is or enthusiastic your customer base, if you run out of money, the game is over. That's why strong cash flow management and runway awareness is not just a financial task, it's an existential priority for founders. Especially in the early stages when revenue is inconsistent and costs can ramp up unexpectedly, manage your liquidity becomes a delicate balancing act. The goal isn't just to keep the lights on, it's to buy your startup enough time to iterate, find product market fit, and hit the milestones that unlock the next phase of growth. So, positive cash flow means you're bringing in more than you're spending. Negative cash flow means you're spending more than you're bringing in, which is very common in early stage startups. Rather than only focusing on profitability, which can be skewed by different accounting rules, cash flow gives you a real time view of financial health. Startup might look profitable on paper, but is still running out of cash due to poor timing between inflows and outflows. Here are several smart strategies that startups can use to manage cash flow effectively. Build a rolling cash flow forecast. Create a 12-week or 6-month rolling forecast that maps expected inflows and outflows. So customer payments, grants, investments, and payroll, rent, or software tools. Update it weekly or monthly to stay agile and avoid surprises. To delay outflows and accelerate inflows, there's a few things you can do. So you can try to negotiate better payment terms with vendors and suppliers, like net 60 instead of net 30. You can incentivize early payments from your customers or provide them with discounts or value added bonuses. You can automate invoicing and follow up on late payments more quickly. Don't just send invoices, build a collections process, especially if you're in business to business. Keep your burn rate manageable by hiring contractors instead of full time staff where possible. using low cost or no code tools before investing in expensive software, and avoid long term leases or other fixed term commitments if you're not stable. Review monthly expenses to spot unnecessary subscriptions, overlapping tools, or unused software licenses. These small expenses can silently add up and drain runway. Runway is the number of months your startup can operate at the current burn rate before running out of cash. The formula is runway equals cash on hand divided by monthly net burn. So for example, if you have $200,000 in the bank and you're burning $25,000 a month, you have 8 months of runway. When your runway is tight, you have some levers to pull. You can reduce expenses, so you can defer hiring or consider part-time or fractional roles. You can pause non-essential marketing or R&D, and you can try renegotiating existing contracts to lower your monthly spend. You can also try to increase revenue, so launch a limited time promotion or upsell campaign, accelerate a new product feature or service offering that customers are asking for, and you can pilot enterprise deals or consulting engagements that can generate short-term cash. Before raising additional capital, you could explore bridge funding or safe notes to cover gaps. You could consider grants, competitions, or alternative financing, such as revenue-based financing. You could also leverage your progress and KPI traction to attract new investors. Don't wait until you're nearly out of money to start raising, because fundraising can take months, if not years, even with the best pitch. Try not to overestimate sales velocity. Be very conservative in your revenue assumptions. Optimism can be very dangerous. Don't undervalue taxes and hidden costs. Set aside funds for taxes, legal fees, and compliance costs. Growing your team and tech stack or marketing spend before your product market fit can burn cash unnecessarily. Consider using financial tools like forecasting spreadsheets. So this could be Excel or Google Sheets, FP&A platforms like FinMark, Pi, and Mosaic for early stage startups, and cash flow apps that are integrated with your accounting software, such as QuickBooks or Xero. Cash flow management and runway planning aren't just about keeping your startup afloat. They're about creating the time and space to make better strategic decisions. The longer your runway, the more leverage you have to experiment, iterate, and grow on your own terms. Stay proactive, review your financials regularly, and treat every dollar as a resource you're choosing how to invest. Resource allocation is the process of deciding how to distribute the startup's limited resources, so that's capital, time, and talent, across different projects, departments, and initiatives. Prioritization is a key part of resource allocation, as startups often have to choose between competing demands and decide where to focus efforts for maximum impact. Effective resource allocation requires a clear understanding of the startup's business goals and priorities. Founders should start by identifying the initiatives that are most critical to achieving those goals, whether it's expanding the customer base, developing a new product, or improving operational efficiency. Then, resource should be directed toward the initiatives that are most likely to drive growth and provide the highest ROI. In a startup environment, prioritization becomes essential due to the lack of abundant resources. Startups must decide which tasks or projects are most important to the business's short-term success and long-term sustainability. Different frameworks can help with decision-making by evaluating tasks based on their impact and required effort. Additionally, startups should be ready to pivot or adjust priorities based on market feedback, competitive pressures, or financial realities. Startups, by nature, operate in an environment of limited resources and unlimited possibilities. With constraints on capital, time, and human talent, founders must become experts in resource allocation, the art of deciding where to focus their efforts for maximum impact. This becomes a powerful discipline that separates the most successful startups from those that burn out chasing too many goals at once. At its core, resource allocation isn't just about dividing up money or headcount. It's about making intentional trade-offs to ensure that the startup's most strategic objectives receive the attention and investment they need to thrive. Before you can effectively allocate resources, you need a clear understanding of your core objectives. Are you aiming for rapid user growth? Is your product market fit still the focus? You need to improve retention or reduce churn. Are you preparing for a funding round? These goals will serve as a compass to guide your decision making. Every allocation decision, whether it's hiring, marketing spend, or product development, should tie back to these strategic priorities. If everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. So some potential frameworks for prioritization, again, available on the website. We have a lot of free templates and resources there. One is the impact versus effort matrix. So think about this on a 2x2 grid. You have high impact, low effort, high impact, high effort, low impact, low effort, and low impact, high effort. So the high impact, low effort might be quick wins, do these first. High impact, high effort, those are more strategic, so plan and invest wisely. Or low impact, low effort, they're optional, you can delay or delegate those. And then low impact, high effort, just avoid them, they're resource drains. Another is the RICE scoring, so that's reach, impact, confidence, effort. This is especially useful in product management to score and rank initiatives. So reach is how many people will this affect? Impact is how much value will it deliver? Confidence is how sure are you of your assumptions? And effort is how much time or resources are needed. This helps prioritize into more data-informed decision making. The Eisenhower matrix divides tasks into urgent and important, which you should do immediately. Important but not urgent, so you should schedule strategically. Urgent but not important, those you can delegate. And neither urgent nor important, you can get rid of those entirely. Startups frequently face either or decisions as well. So do you build new features or fix bugs? Invest in marketing or hire more engineers? Target a new segment or double down on current customers? Rather than default to instinct, founders should ask, what's the ROI of each option? How aligned is this with our current goals? What's the opportunity cost if we don't act now? The best founders are not afraid to say no, even to good ideas, if it distracts from the great ones. When allocating resources, consider how to balance core areas. Product and engineering are focusing on building, iterating, and scaling product. Growth and marketing are acquiring and engaging users or customers. Operations and customer support are delivering service and building trust. Leadership and strategy are doing long-term planning and fundraising. Avoid over-investing in one area without a corresponding plan to support it elsewhere. One of the advantages of being a startup is flexibility. Effective prioritization is not static. It should evolve with customer feedback, product usage data, shifts in the landscape, new fundraising or runway realities, emerging risks or opportunities. Set regular cadences, which is monthly or quarterly or annually, to review priorities, reallocate resources, and ruthlessly cut initiatives that are no longer aligned. A few practical tools that help with visibility and alignment could be project management boards like Trello, Asana, or Notion, resource planning spreadsheets to map time, budget, and team capacity, quarterly OKRs to keep everyone focused on measurable goals. There are some common traps. It's easy to spread yourself too thin. You're trying to do too much with too little. It's easy to chase after shiny objects, jump on trends, or get feedback from one loud customer without looking at the bigger picture. You could ignore the opportunity costs because with every yes to a new idea is a no to something else. Or failing to revisit decisions when what made sense like a week ago or a month ago might not make sense today or 6 months from now. Resource allocation and prioritization are not just operational tasks, they are strategic superpowers. When done well, they help startups stay focused, move fast, and achieve disproportionate impact with limited means. Founders who master this discipline are better equipped to scale intentionally rather than reactively and build companies that last. Let's talk a little bit more about unit economics, which refers to the revenue and costs associated with a single unit of product or service. For startups, understanding unit economics is critical to determining whether the business model is sustainable in the long term. Unit economics help startups calculate the profitability of each customer or transaction, which is crucial for scaling the business. Key metrics of unit economics include CAC, LTV, and a startup's LTV should be higher than its CAC, as this indicates each customer is worth more than its cost to acquire them. This relationship is crucial for scaling because it ensures that the startup is building a profitable customer base that can sustain growth. Startups also need to account for contribution margin, which is the difference between the revenue generated by a unit and the variable costs associated with producing and delivering that unit. High contribution margin allows startups to reinvest profits into growth initiatives, while a low margin may indicate inefficiencies or pricing challenges. Understanding unit economics helps startups make better financial decisions, such as pricing strategies, customer acquisition tactics, and profitability targets. By optimizing unit economics, startups can ensure they are building a scalable and sustainable business model. Unit economics is the backbone of a startup's business model, as it tells you whether the business is working at the unit level, which is the smallest building block of your product or service. If the economics don't make sense for one unit, it definitely doesn't work at scale. That's why having a deep understanding of your unit economics is not just important, it's essential for building a sustainable and profitable startup. So the unit economics refer to the direct revenues and costs associated with a single unit or product of service sold. So a unit could be one customer, one subscription, one transaction, or one product sold. Understanding what a unit means in your specific business is step one. So a startup might think of it as one subscriber per month as unit, or a direct to consumer food brand might treat it as one order as a unit. A marketplace might treat one transaction or active users as a unit. So once you define it for your business, you can measure how much profit or loss it earns per each unit sold, whether that's scalable or not. So CAC, we've talked a little bit about. That's the average cost to acquire one customer. This includes paid advertising, sales teams, commissions and salaries, marketing tools, content, promotions, discounts. So for example, if you spend 10,000 on marketing in 1 month and you acquired 200 customers, your CAC is $50. LTV, think of it as the total revenue you expect to earn from a customer over their entire relationship with your business. So if they pay $50 a month and they stay for a 12-month contract, their LTV is $600. The LTV to CAC ratio is one of the most important indicators of a healthy business. Ideally, your LTV should be at least 3 times your CAC. This means for every dollar you spend to acquire a customer, you're getting at least $3 in return. So if it's less than one, you're losing money per customer. If it's 1 to 2, you're breaking even or it's too close to call. And if it's more than 3, you're probably in a healthy position to scale. A very high ratio, which is 5 or more, could indicate you're under investing in growth. Contribution margin tells you how much money is left from each unit sold after covering variable costs, which are the costs that increase with each additional unit, like raw materials, shipping, or payment processing. This is not the same as gross margin, which is sometimes included in fixed costs like rent or salaries. It is not the same as operating margin. A positive and healthy contribution margin means you have money left over to cover fixed costs and invest in growth. So unit economics matter a lot for startups. They inform pricing strategy. If your LTV is too low or your contribution margin is thin, you may need to adjust pricing to improve profitability. It guides marketing spend. Knowing your CAC and LTV helps you determine how much you can afford to spend on acquiring customers. It also helps you prioritize the most efficient channels. It also signals investor readiness. Investors love strong unit economics. They want to know what your business model can scale profitably. Compelling LTV to CAC ratio, strong contribution margin, and healthy retention numbers can indicate that you're strong and can significantly strengthen your pitch to investors. Whether you're deciding to expand into a new market, introduce a new product, or double down on customer acquisition, your unit economics act as a reality check. So some ways that you can optimize your unit economics: you can lower your CAC, improve your conversion rate, build organic traffic, optimize paid acquisition channels, or lean into referrals and partnerships. You can increase your LTV, so improve retention, upsell, cross-sell, introduce loyalty programs, or enhance your customer experience. You can improve your contribution margin by reducing variable costs through better suppliers, improved logistics, or operational efficiencies. You could also refine pricing. Consider value-based pricing, bundling, or tiered pricing models to better capture value. Also, you have to stop overlooking hidden costs. Make sure you account for all variable costs: shipping, returns, payment fees, processing fees, etc. Don't chase vanity growth. Growing quickly without a solid unit economics can lead to unsustainable burn. And don't wait too long to optimize. If you wait until you run out of cash, measure and improve unit economics early and often. Strong unit economics are the foundation of a scalable startup. Without a profitable model at the unit level, more customers just means more losses. But with a solid unit economics, growth becomes a multiplier and your startup becomes a magnet for investment and momentum. Together, these topics outline a comprehensive approach to managing finances. Develop a robust financial model and budget. Track your key metrics, implement cash flow management strategies, and ensure your startup remains financially healthy. Do effective resource allocation and prioritize to make the best use of your limited resources. Understand your unit economics and gain insight into your long-term sustainability. When all of these elements are aligned, startups are better positioned for growth, profitability, and success. So if you've been following along, we have a little batch of homework. So for your startup or business, develop a financial model and budget. Be sure to include your base case, best case, and worst case scenarios. Establish some key financial metrics and KPIs that you can start tracking. Identify strategies for managing cash flow and runway. Develop a resource allocation and prioritization plan. Understand your current unit economics. Calculate your contribution margin per order, LTV, CAC, and LTV to CAC ratios. Also, if you have data available, calculate your churn rate, monthly recurring revenue, annually recurring revenue, gross margin, and payback period for CAC. Strategic execution is one of the most significant challenges for startups, and building a culture of strategic execution is key to ensuring that your business can achieve its long term goals. A culture that prioritizes execution involves aligning every team member with that strategic vision and ensuring that action is taken at every level to move toward that vision. It's about creating an environment where everyone is committed to achieving outcomes, not just following processes. The first step to building this culture is clearly communicating the company's strategy. This involves making sure that all employees understand the company's vision, mission, and goals, as well as their individual roles in achieving them. Transparency and frequent communication about the company's objectives help keep everyone on the same page and focused on the right priorities. Next, startups should foster accountability. Setting clear goals, expectations, and KPIs for both teams and individuals ensures that everyone knows what they need to achieve. It's also essential to empower employees to make decisions and take ownership of their task, which reinforces a sense of responsibility and engagement. Finally, creating a feedback loop is crucial for continuous improvement. Regularly reviewing progress, analyzing results, and adjusting strategies based on insights allows the company to stay on course. By encouraging a feedback driven environment, startups can identify obstacles early and pivot when necessary. In a culture of strategic execution, every action taken should be aligned with the broader goals of the organization. This culture enables startups to move faster and with greater confidence, increasing their chances of achieving success. Great ideas are everywhere, but startups don't succeed on ideas alone. They win by turning those ideas into action. That's why strategic execution is make or break capability for any early stage company. It's the bridge between vision and results, and building a culture that supports execution is one of the smartest moves a founder can make. A culture of strategic execution means your team doesn't just know what the strategy is, they live it in their day to day decisions. Everyone understands the why, they know what success looks like, and they take ownership of driving outcomes, not just completing tasks. So, step one is connect strategy to action. The foundation of execution is strategic clarity. Everyone from the founding team to the newest hire needs to understand the vision, which is where you're going, the mission, why it matters, the strategic priorities, and that's how you'll get there. This means clearly communicating company goals and, just as importantly, how those goals break down into functional or individual responsibilities. So for this, you can use OKRs to align teams around measurable outcomes. You could use strategy maps or roadmaps to visually connect long-term strategies with near-term actions, or you could use weekly stand-ups or strategy syncs to regularly reinforce priorities and progress. Without this connection, even talented teams can drift into working hard on the wrong things. Step two is creating a cadence of accountability. Execution thrives in environments where goals are clear and progress is tracked. That doesn't mean micromanagement, it means building systems of mutual accountability. Key components include team goals with measurable KPIs, individual ownership of outcomes, regularly checking in and reviewing assessed progress and removing roadblocks, as well as postmortems or retrospectives to learn from wins and misses. When people know what's expected of them and how they're contributing to the bigger picture, their motivation and focus go up. Make your execution culture more proactive than reactive. Don't just hold people accountable after things go wrong. Build processes that surface issues early so you can solve them in real time. Step three is empower people to execute. Execution isn't just about direction, it's about enablement. Even the best strategies fall flat if the people responsible for carrying them feel disempowered or unclear or stuck in bureaucracy. To build a high execution culture, give people decision-making authority within their scope. Invest in capability building, like training, tools, and processes. Encourage cross-functional collaboration to reduce silos and bottlenecks. Celebrate initiative and problem solving, not just compliance. When team members feel ownership and autonomy, they bring energy, creativity, and urgency to their work. Step four is make feedback and adaptation part of the culture. Execution is never perfect. Markets shift, assumptions fail, roadmaps change. Startups that excel at execution don't stick rigidly to a plan. They build feedback loops in, help them learn to adapt and move faster. Build feedback into your operating rhythm using monthly or quarterly reviews to reflect on strategy execution, track progress with scorecards or dashboards, encourage team and customer feedback to adjust and guide. Treat pivots and changes as part of the process, not as failures. This culture of continuous learning helps avoid stagnation and helps everyone tune into what's working and what needs to change. Step 5 is to lead by example. Finally, execution culture starts at the top. As a founder or leader, you set the tone. If you follow through on your commitments, make decisions quickly, and stay focused on results, your team will too. Few ways to lead with execution in mind. Be transparent about trade offs and priorities. Address blockers directly instead of letting them linger. Recognize not just great ideas, but great follow through. Build rituals that reinforce focus. Your personal habits as a founder, what you reward, what you tolerate, and how you show up will shape the execution culture more than any document or slide deck. In a startup, strategy without execution is just a nice idea on paper. By building a culture where strategy and action are tightly linked, where people are aligned and empowered, and where progress is tracked and celebrated, you dramatically improve your odds of success. A culture of strategic execution means you're not just hoping things will work out, you're making sure that they do. Strategic decision making is a critical process for any startup. Without a structured framework, decision making become reactive, inconsistent, or driven by personal bias. Developing a framework for strategic decision making provides a systemic approach to making important choices that will impact the business's future. A good decision making framework begins with defining the problem or opportunity clearly. Startups must gather data and insights that help contextualize the situation and inform the decision. This requires understanding both the short term and long term implications of the choice, as well as any risks involved. Once the problem is defined, startups should identify and evaluate options. This involves brainstorming potential solutions and assessing each one's viability based on criteria like cost, time to implement, and potential impact. It's important to prioritize the options that align with the company's strategic goals and vision. The next step is to make the decisions. Once all options have been considered, founders and leadership teams must choose the best course of action, keeping in mind the startup's values, resources, and strategic objectives. Finally, monitoring and adjusting decisions is critical. Even after a decision is made, it's essential to track progress and outcomes to determine if the decision was effective. If the chosen path isn't producing the expected results, being willing to reassess and adapt is key. This framework enables startups to make decisions based on data and strategic alignment rather than impulse or external pressure, which in turn improves the likelihood of success. At its core, strategic decision making is about choosing the right path for your startup, one that aligns with your long term vision while navigating the day to day complexities. However, in the fast paced, often chaotic world of startups, decisions can easily become reactive, emotional, or influenced by short term pressures. This is where structured decision making frameworks become invaluable. They ensure that decisions are made deliberately, consistently, and with the future in mind. Solid decision making framework guides founders and leadership teams through the process of analyzing, choosing, and executing decisions that align with the startup's goals, resources, and market realities. Step 1 is to define the problem or opportunity clearly. The foundation of any great decision is clarity. You cannot solve a problem or seize an opportunity until you understand it. Defining the problem or opportunity clearly involves answering key questions. What is the challenge we're facing? Are we trying to solve a customer pain point, overcome an internal obstacle, or capitalize on a new market trend? What are the potential opportunities? Are there unmet needs in the market or innovations we can leverage? And why does this matter? What's at stake in the decision? Growth, profitability, brand, or customer satisfaction? To ensure clarity, it's helpful to create problem statement or opportunity brief that summarizes the situation in a few sentences. This helps to keep the team aligned and focused on the issues at hand. So one option is the 5 Ws. So that's who, what, when, where, and why to clearly frame the problem. For instance, what is the customer dissatisfaction that we're solving, and why is it urgent now? Step 2 is gather data and insights. Effective decision making is built on data. Without it, decisions risk being driven by intuition, guesswork, or emotion. For a startup, this means gathering relevant data and insights to better understand both the problem and potential solutions. Key areas to explore are market research, so you understand customer needs, pain points, and buying behaviors. Internal data, so your performance metrics, sales figures, and customer feedback. Competitive analysis, what are your competitors doing? How are they responding to similar challenges or opportunities? And financial analysis, what is the cost, revenue potential, and ROI of each option? Tools like customer surveys, A/B testing, or focus groups can also provide valuable input. Startups should strive to rely on objective data wherever possible rather than gut feelings or assumptions. SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to categorize the data is a good option. This helps ensure you're not only looking at the decision in isolation, but within the broader context of the business environment. Step 3 is to identify and evaluate options. Once you have a solid grasp of the problem and supporting data, it's time to brainstorm solutions or options. This is where creativity meets structured evaluation. When evaluating options, consider these criteria. Feasibility. Can this option be implemented with the resources and time available? Impact. What will be the potential return or benefit for this business? How will it move you closer to achieving strategic goals? Costs. What will this cost in terms of financial resources, time, and effort? Risk. What are the potential risks and downsides of each option? Are there contingencies in place? Alignment. Is the option aligned with the company's values and long-term vision? Using structured tools like decision matrices or impact risk effort charts to compare and rank each option, these tools can help you make complex decisions more manageable and objective. To explore this a little more, you could create a cost benefit analysis to calculate the financial implications of each option. This tool can be particularly helpful when options seem equally viable but differ in scale or resource requirements. Step 4 is just making the decision. After thoroughly evaluating the options, it's time to make a decision. But decision making isn't just about picking the best option, it's about choosing the right one that best aligns with your startup's goals and current realities. Some steps to consider are: be decisive, don't overthink or wait for the perfect answer. Making a timely decision is often more valuable than a perfect, and especially in a fast paced startup environment. Communicate the decision. Make sure that everyone involved is or impacted by the decision understand it, its rationale, and what's expected of them going forward. And then commit to the execution. Once a decision is made, make sure the resources are aligned and teams are focused on the next steps. So you could make a decision-making grid here where each option is placed into categories like strategic alignment, risk, financial feasibility, time to complete, to clearly communicate why the final decision was made. And last step is 5, monitor, adjust, and learn. Even the best decisions can have unintended consequences, which is why the final step of any decision-making framework is to monitor progress and adjust course as needed. This involves tracking KPIs related to the decision, gathering feedback from customers, employees, and stakeholders, regularly reviewing outcomes to see if the desired effects are being achieved, and being flexible and willing to make adjustments or pivot if the decision proves to be less effective than anticipated. OKRs from monitoring and adjusting the impact of these decisions might work. By setting measurable outcomes for key decisions, you ensure that everyone knows what success looks like and can adjust strategies accordingly. Strategic decision making is an art and a science. It requires clear thinking, access to the right data, and ability to balance short term needs with long term vision. A well structured decision making framework not only helps startups make better decisions, but also fosters a culture of accountability, alignment, and continuous improvement. By following a systemic approach to decisions, defining the problem, gathering data, evaluating options, making a choice, and continuously monitoring, you'll set your startup on a path to smarter, more confident execution. With the right framework in place, decisions will become less about guessing and more about strategically positioning your startup for success. Markets change. Startups operate in a dynamic environment, and the ability to adapt strategy to changing market conditions is essential for long term success. Markets evolve rapidly due to factors like shifts in customer preferences, technological advancements, or changes in competition. A strategy that was effective in one context may become outdated or ineffective in another, and being able to pivot is crucial to survival. To successfully adapt, startups must continuously monitor the external environment. This means staying informed about industry trends, competitor actions, regulatory changes, and evolving customer needs. Horizon scanning, competitive intelligence, and customer feedback are valuable sources of information that help startups anticipate shifts in the market. Once market changes are identified, startups should reevaluate their current strategy and adjust it as needed. This could involve refining the product offering, adjusting pricing, targeting new customer segments, or exploring new distribution channels. The goal is to ensure that the company remains aligned with the evolving market landscape while staying true to its core mission and values. Adaptation isn't just about reacting to changes, it's about staying agile and being proactive. Startups should encourage a mindset of flexibility and continuous learning within the organization, where team members are encouraged to propose ideas for strategic shifts or innovations. By creating a culture that embraces change, startups can stay ahead of the curve and maintain a competitive edge. Startups face constant market challenges that can make previously successful strategies obsolete. Here are a few common market shifts that can require strategic adaptation. Customer preferences. So, consumers will change and their tastes and expectations evolve. So, what worked in the past may no longer resonate with your audience in the future. Startup that was once successful by appealing to one demographic may need to reimagine its offering to attract a different segment. There's always disruption to technology. The rise of new technology can disrupt entire industries, rendering existing business models or products and services irrelevant. Startups must be ready to embrace new tech or risk being left behind. Competitive dynamics. So, competitors may introduce new services, innovations, products, pricing strategies, or marketing tactics that force you to reassess your position in the market. If you fail to react, you can lose your competitive edge. There are always economic and regulatory changes. So, shifts in the economy or government regulations like tax law, environmental policy can impact business operations. Startups must be prepared to adjust their strategy in response to these external pressures. Successful startups can view change as an opportunity, not just as a threat. By staying productive, proactive, agile, you can navigate these shifts, but also stay ahead of the curve and innovate faster than your competition. So you should continuously monitor the external environment. Stay informed. This means actively monitoring the external environment for signs of change that could affect your startup. One way to do this is horizon scanning. This involves looking ahead and predicting potential trends and shifts that could affect your industry or market. Horizon scanning tools such as trend reports, market analysis, and future scenario planning can help startups anticipate major shifts before they happen. Competitive intelligence is kind of keeping an eye on your competitors. What are they doing well? How are they changing? What new products or services are they introducing? What's their strategy? Tools like competitive analysis grids, SWOT analysis, or market mapping help track competitor movements. There's also customer feedback and engagement. Continuously gathering feedback from your customers through surveys, focus groups, social media monitoring, and customer reviews can provide invaluable insights into changing needs and preferences. A pestle analysis, which is political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental analysis, can help you scan the external environment. It helps assess how macro factors might affect your business and what external changes you might need to adapt to. By collecting and analyzing this information on an ongoing basis, startups can predict and prepare for changes that become urgent. This proactive approach allows businesses to make strategic adjustments rather than merely react to changes. Next is to reevaluate and refine your strategy. Once you've identified changes in the market or customer behaviors, the next step is to reevaluate your current strategy. This doesn't mean abandoning your vision or mission, but making necessary adjustments to ensure that your strategy aligns with the evolving environment. So, some steps to follow are to assess your strategic fit. Compare your current strategy to the market changes. Are your product offerings still relevant? Are your marketing efforts still alive with your customer preferences? Identify gaps. Look for areas where your current strategy is misaligned with the new market dynamics. So, if customer feedback reveals a key pain point is no longer being addressed by your product, you may need to adjust your offerings. Also, explore new opportunities. Market changes bring new opportunities for growth. For instance, technology advancements might open up new distribution channels, or a regulatory shift could create demand for new services. Using a tool like the business model canvas to map out key components of your business, such as value proposition, customer segments, and revenue streams, and identify where changes are needed in response to market shifts. Next step is to proactively innovate and pivot. Adapting isn't just about responding to changes, but also staying ahead of the curve by being proactive in innovation. Successful startups don't wait for market forces to dictate their path. They create opportunities by innovating and experimenting with new ideas. If customer preferences shift or new technologies emerge, don't just tweak your existing offerings. Consider developing new products or services that can capture the emerging demand. For example, if technology makes it easier to personalize customer experiences, could your product benefit from such an innovation? Changing market conditions might require you to rethink your business model. For example, a shift in customer demand might make subscription based models more viable than one time sales. Don't be afraid to experiment with new revenue streams. As new platforms emerge, like social media, e commerce, or mobile apps, startups can use these channels to reach customers in novel ways. A change in market conditions could be the perfect time to expand into new regions or experiment with a digital distribution. You could use a lean startup approach tool to test new ideas quickly. Use MVPs or pivot to evaluate whether new innovations or shifts are worth pursuing. Next step is to foster a culture of agility and learning. We said this a lot in this series. To remain adaptable, startups must continually embed a culture of agility, continuous learning, and encourage employees at all levels to embrace change and be proactive. Encourage flexibility. So, to do that, cultivate a mindset that views change as an opportunity for growth, not something to fear. When team members are open to change, it becomes easier to innovate and adapt quickly. Adaptation often requires the input of multiple departments like marketing, product sales, customer support, and much more. By encouraging collaboration and information sharing, startups can respond to change faster and more effectively. Also, create feedback loops. Regularly assess the effectiveness of adaptations and encourage feedback from all stakeholders. This ensures that the startup remains in tune with changing market conditions and customer needs. You can use the Agile Scrum principles to organize teams around continuous cycles of planning, execution, and review on a compressed timescale. This helps foster iterative progress and continuous learning. Adapting to changing market conditions is more than just survival. It's about thriving in a dynamic world. Successful startups recognize that their strategy must evolve to stay aligned with shifts in customer preferences, technology advancements, and competitive pressures. By staying informed, reevaluating strategy, innovating proactively, and fostering a culture of agility, startups can position themselves not only to navigate market changes, but also leverage them for continued growth. The key is being proactive. Startups that can predict, prepare for, and embrace change will always be in a better position to outpace competitors and continue to grow. Measuring and tracking strategic progress. One of the most important aspects of strategic execution is measuring and tracking progress. Startups need to ensure they are on the right path forward towards their strategic objectives and that their efforts are yielding the desired outcomes. Without regular measurement, it's easy to get off track or waste resources on initiatives that aren't aligned with the broader goals. Startups should begin by establishing clear KPIs and metrics that align with their strategic objectives. These metrics could be related to customer acquisition, revenue growth, product development, or market share, depending on the focus of the strategy. It's important that these are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, aka SMART goals. Next, startups should regularly review progress against these metrics. This could be done weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly, depending on the nature of your goals and timeline. The key is to stay on top of performance data and use it to inform decision making. For example, if customer acquisition is lagging, the company may need to adjust its marketing strategy. Moreover, measuring strategic progress requires a holistic view. Startups should track both short and long term outcomes, like revenue from new customers and brand positioning. A balanced scorecard approach can help ensure that both financial and non financial indicators are considered in evaluating success. In the fast paced world of startups, it's important to regularly course correct based on feedback and results. Tracking progress allows startups to identify problems early, adjust strategies, and stay focused on the long term vision. Strategic execution is not just about having a well laid plan, it's about ensuring that the plan is being effectively executed and that progress toward achieving key business objectives is consistently measured. For startups, measuring and tracking progress is essential for staying on course. This helps identify opportunities for improvement and ensures that resources are being used effectively. Without it, startups risk veering off track, wasting time on initiatives that don't align with their vision or miss opportunities for optimization. By measuring the impact of their strategies, startups can validate their assumptions, make informed decisions, and refine their approach to accelerate growth. It's about creating a system that continuously checks the health of the business and adjusts to changing circumstances. Step one is to establish clear KPIs and metrics aligned with strategic objectives. This means setting clear KPIs that align with the overall strategy, and they show whether the startup is achieving its goals and progressing towards its vision. There's two types that we really focus on. So that's leading indicators, which are early signals of future performance, and they help predict whether a goal will be achieved. So, for example, the number of leads generated or the growth in website traffic can be a leading indicator of future customer acquisition. And there's lagging indicators. These are results based metrics that show how well the company has performed in achieving its goals. So, that could be revenue growth, profit margin, or customer retention rates. And we talked about SMART. So, specific, increase monthly traffic by 25% through targeted SEO efforts would be very specific. Measurable would be track the percentage increase in website traffic. Achievable, which is realistic traffic goals based on past performance. So saying we want a 200% increase would maybe be unrealistic, but 10 to 25% seems very achievable. And relevant, does this directly impact our KPIs or is it completely unrelated? And time bound. So what's a reasonable amount of time that we can achieve this goal? Some other KPIs and metrics that you want to track might be around ones we've already talked about. So CAC, LTV, churn rate, sales conversion rate, employee productivity. When setting KPIs, consider both short-term and long-term objectives. You could focus on tactical goals in the short term, like increasing conversions, while longer term, you could focus on market share and brand recognition. Step 2 is regularly review and monitor progress. So this could be, again, monthly, quarterly, weekly. For certain project and team objectives, weekly or bi-weekly check-ins might make sense in a fast-moving startup versus longer-term reviews to assess strategic progress might make sense on a longer-term time range. And in these reviews, you should ask, are we on track to meet our quarterly or annual goals? Which KPIs are we falling short on and why? Are our assumptions and targets still valid, or do we need to adjust our approach? And are there external factors that we need to consider? The key is to avoid waiting too long because you might have missed your opportunity to make a change. Frequent checkpoints ensure that issues are detected early and you can respond accordingly. I love dashboards. You can create very simple dashboards with your KPIs to track progress visually and make adjustments in real time. Step 3 is to use feedback to inform and adjust strategy. So it's not just about numbers, but how do we make better decisions and how do we course correct? How do we know when to course correct? Without the ability to adjust based on data, the startup could waste resources or continue down an unproductive path. So getting regular customer feedback through surveys, interviews, social media is important. Are customers satisfied? Are their needs evolving? They are essential for real-time insights. We often overlook employees and their feedback. So particularly if you have a customer who is talking to employees, like a customer service type of role, they're a great resource for identifying operational bottlenecks or areas for improvement. So have open channels to allow feedback to your employees. And then competitive monitoring. You can buy these reports on the market and some of them are free. There's lots of research available out there. It's important to know where they're at and what they're doing. So once you've gathered all this feedback, you should be ready to adjust your tactics or strategy. So do you shift resources to higher performing initiatives? Do you tweak marketing campaigns that aren't yielding results? Do you refine product offerings based on customer preferences? Step 4 is to implement a balanced scorecard approach. So this is more of a holistic view. And this approach helps businesses not only track financial metrics, but non-financial performance indicators and ensures that the business is aligned overall with strategic goals. The balanced scorecard typically has 4 main categories. So you've got the financial perspective. So that's revenue growth, profitability, cost management. You've got customer perspective, like satisfaction, retention, and acquisition rates. You've got an internal process perspective, such as efficiency, innovation, and product development processes. And then you've got learning and growth perspective. So employee satisfaction, skill development, and organizational culture. Using this type of framework, startups can ensure that they're not just hitting financial targets, but also adjusting customer needs, improving internally, and fostering a positive culture of growth and learning. Step 5 is to adjust, adapt, and scale. Strategic tracking is not a one-time activity, but an ongoing process. As your company grows and your strategies evolve, tracking should adapt as well. As you mature, you should mature your KPIs. Early stage startups might focus heavily on customer acquisition, while scaling businesses might focus more on market share. When scaling, startups often need to refine their KPIs to focus on efficiency and growth as well. So that could be operating margins, customer retention, and profitability. Startup that initially focused on user growth as a key metric might shift to customer retention or profitability once they've achieved a significant, reliable customer base. Tracking these evolving KPIs ensures that growth doesn't come at the expense of sustainability. Measuring and tracking progress isn't just about collecting data, it's about ensuring that the startup is consistently moving toward its strategic goals with efficiency and effectiveness. Regularly tracking performance against well defined KPIs enables startups to stay on course, adapt to challenges, and scale efficiency. By using data to guide decision making, startups can optimize their efforts, align their teams, and adjust course when necessary, ensuring that their strategy remains relevant and successful in the fast changing market conditions. Agility and resilience are crucial components of strategic success. Agility refers to the ability to quickly respond to changes in the market or within the business, while resilience is the capacity to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward despite obstacles. Startups need to build agility into their strategy by creating flexible plans that allow them to adapt to unexpected changes. This might mean having contingency plans in place or maintaining the ability to shift focus without losing sight on the broader mission. Agility also allows startups to pivot when necessary, whether that involves changing the product, exploring new markets, or adjusting business models. Resilience, on the other hand, is important for overcoming failures and learning from mistakes. Startups often face setbacks, whether it's due to funding challenges, market competition, or product failures. Building a resilient mindset with the team helps the company navigate adversity and emerge stronger. Resilient teams maintain their commitment to the company's vision, use failures as learning opportunities, and persevere through challenging times. Together, agility and resilience form a dynamic duo that enables startups to thrive in uncertain environments. Agility allows them to capitalize on new opportunity, while resilience ensures that they can weather storms and continue growing. In the unpredictable world of startups, agility and resilience are more than just buzzwords. They are foundational to long term success. As startups face rapid market shifts, customer demands, and unforeseen obstacles, the ability to quickly adjust strategies and bounce back from setbacks is essential for survival and growth. They help the company stay competitive, relevant, and sustainable. Agility in a startup context refers to the ability to respond swiftly and effectively to changes, customer preferences, technology, and external factors that may impact the business. It's not just about reacting to change, it's about proactively designing your business so it can adapt to evolving circumstances. Startups that build agility into their strategy can pivot quickly, recalibrate their focus, and explore new opportunities without becoming paralyzed by change. So, have a flexible business plan. While having a clear strategic vision is important, startups must be able to prepare to revise their plans when new information arises. Agile strategies allow startups to set initial goals while leaving room for changes as the market evolves. So, a startup in a high tech industry might initially focus on a specific product, but later decide to pivot to a more profitable service offering as customers change. This flexibility allows the business to capitalize on emerging trends. Agility also means preparing for unexpected changes or disruptions. Startups should create contingency plans for a variety of scenarios, whether that's market downturn, competitor activity, or shift in customer behavior. They act as a safety net and allow the company to respond without derailing progress. So, for example, a startup with a food delivery app could create a backup plan to maintain business operations if there's a supply chain disruption and ensure that they can continue offering services to customers without significant delays. To be agile, startups need access to real time data that informs their decisions. By continuously monitoring key metrics and feedback, startups can make informed decisions quickly. This might include adjusting market strategies, product features, or pricing models based on immediate market feedback. So, for example, a mobile app startup might test different user interface designs and track engagement rates. If a new feature receives positive feedback, they can roll it out across all users and promptly respond to customer preferences. Agility also entails a culture of constant innovation. Startups that encourage experimentation, whether in product development, marketing tactics, or business models, can remain at the forefront of their industry. Experimentation allows startups to learn rapidly and adjust their approach to align with what works. For example, an e-commerce startup might mix various sales channels like social media, email marketing, and partnerships and continuously test what generates the highest ROI. So resilience is it's a tough one to, get up every day and fight the good fight over and over again. Even when faced with challenges, startups inevitably encounter obstacles, whether it's a failed product launch, cash flow issues, market competition, or funding struggles. Resilience is the ability to just keep going. Resilient startups view challenges as growth opportunities rather than roadblocks. They are able to bounce back stronger and more informed after each setback. They maintain their motivation and reinforce their team's commitment to overcoming adversity. The resilience of a startup often depends on the mindset of its leadership and team. A resilient team embraces failure, learns from mistakes, and uses setbacks as opportunities to grow. The ability to keep morale high, even when things aren't going great, is crucial for maintaining forward momentum. For example, if a product launch fails to meet expectations, resilient founders will use this experience to gather customer feedback, refine the product, and relaunch with improvements instead of abandoning the project altogether. Startups face a great deal of stress, from tight budgets to high stakes. Resilient teams are able to adapt to these stressful conditions without burning out. Resilience in this context means finding solutions to problems rather than dwelling on them, and stay focused on the big picture. So, for example, a startup dealing with cash flow issues might prioritize cost cutting or seek bridge financing instead of succumbing to stress or panic, and just maintain operations the best they can while they seek longer term solutions. A resilient startup doesn't rely internally on strength alone, it cultivates a strong support network. This could include teachers, advisors, mentors, investors, and a community. They might also look at other entrepreneurs for advice, guidance, and support and encouragement. A founder going through a rough patch might turn to a mentor who has been through similar challenges, and it helps them gain perspective and reassurance that things will improve with time and effort. Resilient startups are also guided by a clear long term vision. They understand that setbacks are temporary and perseverance will eventually lead to success. The vision provides purpose and gives them the motivation even when short term results are less than favorable. A tech startup facing stiff competition might push through product development challenges because they are focused on their mission of improving healthcare, and they want to improve access for underserved communities rather than just back off and react to market pressure. So there are some things that might help embed culture of agility and resilience. So encourage open communication, foster flexibility, provide mental and emotional support, and promote a growth mindset. Resilient teams that have a growth mindset view challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, and it encourages continuous learning and reflection. So agility plus resilience equals startup success. When combined, they're a powerful tool. They allow startups to seize opportunities and adapt. Together, they ensure that startups can thrive, pivot, and bounce back stronger. And in today's competitive and fast paced world, these qualities enable startups to not just survive or outlast competitors, but capitalize on emerging trends and reach long term success. So, this last few episodes was focusing on the ability to execute strategy effectively and adapt to changing conditions. Building a culture of strategic execution sets the foundation for success, while a structured decision making framework provides a clear path for leaders to follow. Adaptability and tracking progress ensure that strategies remain relevant and aligned with the market. The ability to stay agile and resilient allows startups to overcome challenges and navigate the ever evolving startup landscape.